Hi, good morning. This is R.N. Bhaskar from BKBB, an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. And each week we bring to you policy analysis, short business stories, and an occasional conversation. But at this time, now, we are going to discuss news. Not exactly news, but news behind the news. And we talk about various things, interpretations that many people don't talk about. And yes, do remember to click the subscribe button. If you like the program, click the like button. But most important of all is tell your friends about us. Tell all the people around you about us, because that's the way we can grow our audiences further. And yes, this is the last day of the week. So you have a long weekend ahead. And we think we have got some news that'll keep you thinking about these news for the next 2 days. I'm joined today by my co-anchor, Anurag. Anurag, welcome. Nice to have you here. And today, the headlines that we are going to talk about are three. The first is how US manufacturing shrinks. And that in turn will mean that the world economy will also shrink. The second one is the IT and the creator economy, which is upbeat, and major announcement that took place at the Waves conference yesterday. And the third is an interesting story on how demand is down but hopes are high, and yet many people believe that there's disaster ahead. And yes, one more little thing. We take up questions at the end of the session. We try to take up 2 or 3 questions. If you have any comments or questions, please post them to us. And let's go to the first story. The first story is about how demand is shrinking. Demand is shrinking, investments are shrinking, purchases are shrinking. Everywhere there is a problem where indexes are down. And when indexes go down and and manufacturing starts shrinking, you can be sure that the US economy will also shrink and the global economy will also shrink. And in a way, that runs counter to Trump's claim of making America great again. I mean, you have many plans, but today it looks like industry is not happy. The costs are terrible. And as we discuss later, how there are other fronts also that need to be looked at. And that, in a way, finishes my story, the first story. But we've got a bigger story coming in, and that is about the creator economy. And Anurag, could we have your story?
Good morning. This report is about India's first ever World's Audio Video Summit Waves, also known as Waves, a 4-day event which started yesterday, and the government's push towards the creator economy by allotting 400 crores to set up India's first ever Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, IICT, in Mumbai. The first phase of this institute will be set up in Pedder Road, and the second phase will be set up on a 10-acre land in the film city of Mumbai. Global tech giants like Nvidia, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Star India, Meta, and Adobe are collaborating to make IICT at par with the global standards, who were also present in the Waves conference yesterday. The IICT is slated to be developed as national hub to educate the vast and ambitious young generation in the field of animation, visual effects, gaming, comics, and extended reality sectors. Talking about the growing number of content creators in India and influencers, a report by Kurus, a influencer marketing intelligence platform, states that there has been a staggering 322% growth in the creator ecosystem from around 9 lakh influencers in 2020 to 4.6 million in 2024. Amongst all the categories of content creation, gaming has been the fastest growing, which recorded a whopping 216% growth in the gaming influencers from 2020 to 2024. The orange economy, also known as the content economy of India, has been getting a lot of attention by the content tech giants, global tech giants, over the past couple of years. Yesterday, in the Waves conference, the YouTube CEO Neil Mohan committed to invest $8.5 billion dollars more after investing $210 billion dollars in the last 3 years. He highlighted that over 10 million channels in India uploaded content in the past year, with more than 15,000 channels surpassing 1 million subscribers. He also noted the content produced in India garnered 45 billion hours of watch time from global viewers last year. What's your take on the on the growing content economy of India, sir?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important sector. It's one of the sectors that can generate revenue if the government observes two things. One, which nobody talked about at Waves, is that only about 50% of the schools, or even more, don't have internet connectivity. Now, if government schools don't have internet connectivity, how will you grow a creative economy? You need to see the YouTubes and the Instagrams and the games. The government itself is constraining the industry from growing by not investing enough in internet at school levels. There's a second problem. The government's itching to get the IT bill out. But in the last 1 week, all the big players, the YouTubes, the Instagrams, and the Facebooks, sent a message to the government of the United States saying that this should be treated as a trade barrier, and the government of India has decided to shelve that bill completely. One hopes the government does not get any bright ideas about banning content on these channels because it's not suitable. It's not liked by some people in the government. These are the two dark clouds I see. Otherwise, yes, the future is bright for this industry. India has the talent. India has the creativity. It needs to be harnessed and allowed to bloom. Thank you, Anurag. Excellent. And now we go to the third story. And the third story is a kind of a triptych. There are three panels to it. Well, demand slows down, but there's a lot of hope. Yet there are warning signals. Why has demand slowed down? Because, of course, people are scared that they won't have much purchasing power left. Things have become very expensive. And the markets have begun to realize that good times may not last forever. But hopes are running high because America announced that it and Ukraine have signed a minerals deal. A minerals deal is very important for USA because China is the country which controls most of the minerals, and Russia. America wants its hands on minerals, which is one of the reasons why it wanted to annex Greenland. At least that's what Trump said. But the Ukraine-USA deal has some very interesting question marks. First, it was not signed by Zelensky or Trump. It was signed by the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Fine. And Ukraine's first deputy prime minister, who has never been in the news, named Yulia Sverdenko. Now, why should she come in? And some analysts believe that she came in because she's a deputy prime minister who's appointed by the prime minister, which effectively means that the second Zelensky loses his job, this deal becomes null and void because she too loses her job. So the agreement to remain intact, she has to remain, Zelensky has to be allowed to remain in power. It's a very clever deal. But there's a second interesting thing that nobody's talking about. Natural resources, America wants. But nobody's talked about the fact that most of the natural resources, most of the minerals are in Russia-occupied Ukraine, which Russia is determined to keep as part of its country. So Zelensky has signed a deal for assets that are no longer with Ukraine. They are with Russia. How will that pan out in the future? I don't know. But this is very interesting and very few people have talked about it. And because of these contradictions, slowing demand, slowing production, and a deal that everyone's euphoric about, but which has major question marks, people like the Economist have already started saying that within a little time, there could be trouble ahead. There could be dark days ahead. All the signs are very worrisome. America's losing investors. Bond rates are very, very flaky. The stock markets are shaky. And Trump waffles between one decision and another constantly. Let us see what happens. But yes, thank you for being with us. And one more little thing that I want to tell you is that please remember to click the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. Click the like button if you like us. And tell all your friends, all the people you know about the work that we are doing. We need that support. And finally, have a wonderful weekend. You got a long weekend. But before that, let me go to a couple of questions that have come in. The first question is, will USA get the minerals it wants? Of course it can, if it makes peace with China and Russia. At present, nothing sure. On the one hand, you start talking to Iran, and the next minute you say, no, we are not going to remove sanctions. So Iran said, we can't talk until sanctions are removed. America wants to show its pressure, its weight, and its power, and then wants discussions after holding a revolver to someone's temple. It doesn't work that way. So, which is why America can get the minerals it wants if it learns how to deal with other countries neutrally, fairly, and stops imposing sanctions unilaterally. There is a second question. The creator economy is a great thing, but doesn't it depend on literacy? Yes, some of it depends on literacy. But if you look at the marketplace, some of the best animation experts are school dropouts. They've learned the skills without going to school. Maybe that's why they're better, because school has not regimented them. And somehow schools are so terrible, it's better to be without those schools. And yes, when it comes to gaming, you don't have to be educated. Look at the children playing games. The creator economy is a fabulous economy because it does not depend on many of the things that previous generations had to depend on. India has a potential to leapfrog over everyone else and become absolutely way ahead of everyone else. And there's a last question. When production slows in America, how will that affect the world? Well, if production slows in America, there will be less things for America to export. And because it doesn't want to import things with the duties, the world will also not sell it anything. And already because of the poorly thought out policies, NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel have all suffered huge setbacks. It's government policies that are killing industry. So, well, the world will shrink. And it could shrink even further, much, much further than what the World Bank or the IMF had predicted a week ago. Thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend. And see you again next Monday. Hope to have you once again. Take care. Good luck.